Hello and welcome to the Violympic Trials. Thanks for waiting for a few minutes delay here. I've got a big audience on Facebook as well that I'm going to bring over here because Facebook is misbehaving. So allow me to do that and we will get started. I hope you're all well, and so glad you're joining me for these trials. And one more message to let everyone know to join us on YouTube. Wonderful. And last thing I need is a violin. Well, thank you so much for joining me for the Violympic Trials. I wish we had a whole parade and fanfare here, but we do have the Violympic theme, which is going to be our big project for the week. And again, I'm just so happy that you're spending this week with me. We're going to have a lot of fun, learn a cute little piece with some fun tricks in there. And you're going to end the week a different player than you started. That I can guarantee you. So let's dig right in. Hopefully, everybody watching this is registered for the Violympic Trials. Because if you're registered, then you've gotten the welcome email, you've gotten the sheet music, your practice journal, which will help organize your work for the week, and it's also one of the ways you can earn points. And finally, your daily assignments. Because if you're really going to participate here and go through these trials with me, I've got little assignments, little practice assignments that you can do every one of the 5 days in order to really learn this piece and give it your best. So what we're going to do today is brief overview of the week, talk about some of the fundamental skills that'll go into the theme, because I know it's new for everybody. You've just gotten a start looking at it, which was the point. And then to look at today's assignments and just look at what those mean and how you can do them. And don't worry, by the end of the week, you're going to have your own version of the Violympic theme ready to go, and you'll record it. And if you really want to go all the way, post it. Because remember, at the end of the week, the member of the Violympic Trials who scores the most points will get a free place in the Violympics, which are starting on June 1st. And that's a really fun, amazing 12-week program that's starting on June 1st. So, the ways you can score points, just by showing up here. So start, if you're interested in the points aspect, start keeping some kind of record, some kind of proof of the different ways in which you've scored points. And all that was in the welcome email, but showing up for these live sessions is one way to earn points. Filling out your practice journal, another way to earn points. Making the video at the end and posting it, even if it's an unlisted, you don't have to share it with everyone if you don't want to. Of course, you can feel free to put it up on YouTube or in the Facebook group, but you don't have to. Just post it somewhere, even if it's unlisted. Keep some record of having done that. And finally, sharing about your experiences in the Violympics on social media. There's no limit to how much you can share. Always use that hashtag Violympics. If you're on a platform that does hashtags, that's a great way to earn points too, and to get some of your friends involved in the trials, because they can join late. They don't have to be here for this first day live. People will be joining the trials all throughout the week and making their own day 1 through 5 schedules. So, though that's a summary of the ways to do points. Some of you may be interested in that. Some may just be along to learn the theme and brush up your skills. So everybody's welcome. I made a video of the whole performance of this, so I won't recreate that now. But if you're following along in the sheet music, you can see that it starts with a little cadenza. Sul ponticello, right? Means close to the bridge. That gives us that special sound. And finally, over the course of a couple beats, back to a regular sound, so back away from the bridge. And we're going to go over some of this contact point stuff, so don't worry. To finish up the cadenza. And from here on out, the Violympic theme is basically in tempo. I give a suggested, nice little march tempo of 120. That's what all those patriotic songs are in, right? So, same for this. You can play it at whatever tempo works for you. And that goes for this theme in general. If you've already taken a look at the PDF that I called, your daily assignments, practice strategies and daily assignments, you'll see that I've given you different alternatives for different sections of this piece. There are going to be techniques in here. Some of you will have done all of them before. All the fast stuff, bowing patterns, arpeggios, double stops, fingered octaves, all of that. And some of you, all of those may be new techniques. So you can modify parts of these as I suggest in that PDF with the daily assignments. And tempo is another thing that you can modify. If you want to play the whole thing slower to make it more playable, that's great too. It can be a more solemn march. But at 120, it's about like this. And that takes us into a double stop variation. Again, there's a way to modify that, which is namely to skip it, because it's just a restatement of the theme. And if you're not playing double stops, and you want to give them a try this week, I'll be able to help you with that. But if you know that that's a little bit too much to take on this week, you can feel free to skip it. It's just making it a little fancier. Then we go into the second theme, right? Every fully developed and fully conceived piece has to have a second theme. So different key and all. This section I suggested Sul G, or if you're on the viola, that could even be Sul C. That also is something you can modify. If playing way up on the G string is not your bag, then you can always play it with a different fingering. You'll notice that I put fingerings in here. These are the ones that I use in this piece, and I do suggest them. I recommend them, obviously, since I use them, but that's all open for interpretation too. If you find something that works better for your hand, I'd love for you to consider my reasons for using these fingerings, but in the end, it's up to you. So the fingerings that I've marked in the violin part, many of which will work for the viola, I'm sure, but violists, you may have to modify some of them if they don't work for your instrument or your hand. These fingerings in the Sul G part, which is between rehearsal C and D, are assuming that you're going up on the string. And next we've got the technique that may be newest to the greatest number of you. Of course, a great many of you will have played octaves and fingered octaves before, but I'm betting that some of you haven't. And you know, that can be a big ask if it's something you've never done before. But honestly, some people take to it more readily than others. And there are a couple different modifications you can do here. You can always play, instead of the fingered octaves that I've marked here, you can play all these octaves with 1/4. Even this. I play them as fingered octaves because I find it a little bit easier to get around, to handle the intervals and all that. But if 1/4 is more comfortable, if you want to call that comfortable, you can do that. You can also play single notes in either octave, because as you see, from C to D, we're in a low register. At D, you can restate this second theme. You could play it in this octave, and come up with the fingering that you like. You could also play it in the upper octave by itself. So, you've got options. If you're doing the fingered octaves, I find it a little bit easier to make it fluid. Apparently today I also find it easier to go sharp on that top note. But I've got strategies to practice that along with you. And that brings us back to the original key, and now we get to have fun with some bowing stuff. So this section tests our ability to play even 16ths, even though we're changing the bowing patterns. So I've got some 3 and 1. I'm slowing it down for now for the patterns. You know, in the performance video I made, I actually pushed the tempo a little bit here, which I didn't mark, but that's something you can try if you like. When I'm playing these, I'm hoping not to really accent the separate note. I just want... Then it's 1 and 3. 2 slurred, 2 separate. And then finally, all separate. Some quick arpeggios. Here's a section, again, if you see in your book of daily assignments, here's a section that you can modify. I even give you a printed suggestion for what to do here, but you could also make up your own. The original version here. Ending on a high D. Little tremolo trill there. And then this is just some fancy writing. An arpeggio that you can play as marked, or just a 2 octave, or if you don't want to do that shift. And certainly everybody should be finishing it like that, with the quadruple stop and a harmonic. That's one of those cool violin things that sounds harder than it is. So let's take a look at what your assignments are going to be on day one, and just in general how you can approach these assignments. Surprisingly warm outside Mount Fuji here, so need to stay hydrated. Again, if you happen to be watching this on replay, just whatever day this is, that's day one for you. It doesn't matter what the date's going to be. Those of you here with me live, thanks, because you're scoring points as well. Make sure to take a screenshot or something that shows you were here live. But those of you here live, this is your day one, and you can see in the PDF what your assignments are going to be. And all of these come from the system I developed called Practice Makes Performance. So the idea, and the reason that I didn't want to give you the music in advance, the idea is that from the very beginning of working on a new piece, you already have in mind the final product, the final performance. And for some pieces, of course, you may be performing them your whole lives. Maybe this will be one of them. You'll be an old man or old woman and, still be playing the Violympic theme for decades. Probably not. But in any case, from the beginning of your work, you're looking forward to that performance. So that means that you don't start by kind of hacking through it. You start very deliberately by looking at new skills and strengthening old ones so that all the notes you play have quality and that your mindset is strong and clean right from the beginning. As I write in this document, there is no wasted practice, so neither should there be any wasted sounds. And if you follow my lead, follow my suggestions, your work on the Violympic theme from first to last will be of the highest quality. And I also mentioned this always sticks in my head and it's a nice reminder. The way that I'm going to perform a piece is generally going to be the average of the last 100 times that I played it. And that can go for a whole piece, that can go for a particular passage, a measure, a note. Somewhere an average of the last 100 times I played it. So for a schedule like this where you're learning it just in 5 days, you want your work to be great from the beginning because probably everything you do is going to figure into that 100 times average. So your assignments are written down, but I just want to show you how I would do them, give you a nice guideline to follow. The 3 variables. Simon Fisher has given perhaps the best treatment of these bowing variables in his amazing book that's called Tone. Oh, I even happen to have a copy right here. Hi, Simon, if you happen to be watching. Thanks for the great book, one among many. And I myself have a guide that I linked to. You should have gotten it in the welcome email on these 3 bowing variables: bow speed, bow pressure, and bow contact point. And if we're going to follow Simon Fisher's lead about how he defines the different contact points, contact point 1 would be basically as close to the bridge as we can get. Contact point 5 is right about at the fingerboard. So then you just divide up the rest evenly. That means 3 is exactly in between the bridge and fingerboard. 2 is halfway between there and the bridge. 4 is halfway between 3 and the fingerboard. So your assignment for the 3 variables is to play 10 down bows and 10 up bows at each contact point, starting with 5 and ending with 1. And you can pick whatever string you want, and you can try it even on different strings if you want. If I'm on the A string and I'm at contact point 5, some people like to just kind of cross their eyes and look to see what contact point they're on. Some like to use a mirror. But I'm going to play a full down bow and a full up bow. Now, if you're like me, that bow wants to come in toward the bridge because it can be difficult to play an entire bow truly and staying at contact point 5. You'll also find, right, that that bow's got to be pretty light. And you can help yourself out by playing a faster bow. Again, if you want more of an understanding about why these three variables interact the way they do, download my guide that was linked to in your welcome email. But I want you to play 10 down bows and 10 up bows, so you can chain them right together. That's at contact point 5. Then 4. Now 2, 3, etc. You'll probably find that this gets easier as you come into contact point 3, contact point 2. Then at contact point 1, you may find it gets a little difficult again. Because that's not a pure tone, is it? That's that ponticello sound. In order to get a pure tone here, boy, you've got to have a slow bow with some weight to it. It's going to take you a little bit of time to play those 10 down bows and up bows at contact point 1, but go ahead and do it. As I say, use whatever speed and pressure you need to maintain a pure tone. Next is the generous bow. Why I count this as a fundamental skill, it's one of the biggest differences between soloist level players and non-soloist level players, whether they're very good, very accomplished, or even just beginners. Those soloist level players, you'll see, tend to use more bow, faster bow. Of course, not all the time, but as a general rule, you'll see them very generous with the bow. So your assignment, I want you to play the opening 2 bars. A little slower, which is fine, using a full bow whenever possible. So you don't have to use a full bow for the first note. You can start midway. And if that brings the dynamic up to forte, that's fine. I also ask you to play bars 13 and 14 using a full bow whenever possible. Find the contact point that will allow you to do this and repeat each of those 5 times. That's just right from the very start to get you out of the box, opening up using a generous bow. Next is hand frame. The idea here, and this is a project you can be working on this week and beyond, but this will be a brilliant start. The concept of hand frame is that I always want to know where my 1 and my 4 are. Even if my 4 is not on the string, even if my 1's not on the string, I want to have an awareness of where they are so that they, by default, define an octave. And if I can keep my hand shape nice and stable like that, then all the fingers can act within that frame, that guide basically. I can reach the 1 out of the frame, I can reach the 4 out of the frame, I can play the 2 and the 3 wherever they go inside the frame, but I've got that to guide me, rather than playing one finger like this and another finger like that and another finger like that. I want this hand nice and still. So I ask you to play the first beat, which is the first 8 notes of bar 3, repeatedly. Fast if you can, but whatever's a comfortable tempo, slurring as many notes as possible, so you just change bows whenever you need. You're focusing on lifting and dropping the fingers with the same shape at all times. That means if you look at your first and second and third fingers, they're probably pretty well behaved. When you lift them, they probably lift with the same shape that they have when they drop. Many people, though, their 4th finger, when that 4th finger lifts, it has a completely different shape than when it drops. You don't have to totally whip your 4 into shape all in just a few days, but start building an awareness of that. If you want some extra help with that, I've got a YouTube video called Pinky Power. But basically, you'd like your hand to be still as can be, letting the fingers do the work of lifting and dropping. So I ask you to practice starting on the first note and also on the 5th note, which is the 4th finger. So it's the same pattern, you're just starting in a different place. It's a slightly different way of thinking about it. And then I ask you to find a timer and to set yourself a timer for 20 seconds so that you can do that nice and light for 20 seconds. And again, starting on the fourth finger, same thing. You've got 2 more assignments for day 1. Shifting. Pick a shift in the theme that doesn't seem automatic to you. So, for example, this one. That one from first to third position, for many, if not most of you, that shift is probably going to be something you can do in your sleep. So pick another one that's maybe not quite so automatic. Maybe it's that one from B flat to E flat. But pick any one. Maybe it's one of the ones in the fingered octaves. Play it slowly, slurred 10 times. So in this case, I would play. And I define slowly as at a tempo where you can clearly hear your arrival. So you're not going for it. You're not hoping you hit it. I mean, in that case, I did play the right note, but it was kind of just taking a stab at it. I mean, really play it so that there's no question where you're going to end up. Feel that moment of arrival, of confidence on the E flat. There should be no question as to where you end the shift. That's what I write. Now play it with separate bows. And I want you to shift in this assignment on the old bow. So you're going to change bows as soon as you hear your arrival. Again, slowly enough that you can hear the arrival. You don't want there to be any question about that. The only question should be where you're going to change the bow. And you can do that starting up as well. That's it. That's how we shift. And surprisingly, that's how I shift in tempo too. I just put the shift later and later. We'll get to that in another day. Finally, last assignment for day 1. Arm levels. And this is asking you to play bars 7 and 8 in the theme on the string, seeing that your arm is on the G string level for the open G and in between the D and A strings for all other notes. So this refers to the concept that we've got 4 string levels, right? I want this whole apparatus to basically look the same no matter what string I'm on. If I'm on the E, there's a certain relationship between the hand, the bow, the arm. On the A string, same relationship, just everything gets moved up higher. D string, same relationship. G string, same relationship. I don't want to be on the E string looking like this and then on the G string all weird. Some people can make it work, but it's not recommended. We'll put it that way. So I've got my 4 string levels. So for the G, I want my arm to be on that G string level. For the rest of the notes, well, I want my bow to be in that in-between level, in between A and D strings, the level at which I'd play a double stop. And then I'll let my hand move between the 2 strings. Hand's good at doing that. More than 2 strings involved, we need the arm. But between 2 strings, it's fine. So, yeah, so hand can go in between the A and D. Arm takes us to G and back. So, and I ask you to play it slowly enough that you can feel your arm moving to its next level in advance. So as I'm playing the open G, I want my arm to feel like it's starting to move already to that level. On the way back, on the way back. And we do it on the string so that it's easier to play whatever tempo you need for that. So, to complete all those assignments, it's not going to take all that long. And you can certainly feel free to do more work on the piece if you like. But I would encourage two things. First, even if you get these concepts, even if they're not new to you, I would encourage you to complete these assignments just as I lay them out, so that you have the experience of working the way that I do. Every other week of your life, you can practice exactly the way you do. This week, you can try the way that I do. And if you're going to do more work, you really want to dip into all the fast stuff and the double stops and the fingered octaves and whatnot, you can go ahead and do that. Remember to practice for performance. Remember that everything you do now is going to affect how you record it later. So that shouldn't scare you. It just means to play with quality, to give yourself time and space to absorb everything that's new. Because you're going to build on it each day. You don't have to solve all the problems today. In fact, I've given you the problems that I think are most essential to get into today. So if you want to do more than that and use these as a starting point, that's great. Always practice for performance. So I'm going to check to see if I have any messages from our community manager. And for all of you who started in the Facebook group and ended up here, I'm sorry for the switch. Evidently some setting for Facebook groups that's not letting me live stream today. I'll be sending out an email summing today up, and if I need to send further emails to update you about what will happen tomorrow, you'll get those as long as you're registered. If you're watching this and you're not yet registered, go right now. There's a link in the description here in YouTube. Register, then you'll get all the materials. You'll get whatever updates come your way so that you'll know where the videos are. And for those watching on replay, here's where the videos will be, here on YouTube. And whenever you're watching this is your own day one. So thank you so much. Later today, I'll get you that email summing up, letting you know what to do next. And there will be a link to the scoring sheet where you can input your own scores, help yourself keep track of scores, because at the end, if you think you've got a high score based on all the different ways you've got to get points, then you'll want to know what that total is, and you'll want to have all your proofs, pictures of your journal that you filled out, pictures of your shares on social media, etc. So screenshots of being here live. So thank you so much. This is going to be a fun and exciting week, and I can't wait to see you back tomorrow for day 2 of the training, and enjoy the Violympic Trials. See you really soon.